Hello and welcome into the Birds of the Roundtable. The Philadelphia Eagles are going to the Super Bowl by virtue of a 32-point victory over the Washington Commanders in the NFC Championship game. But hey, Jaden Daniels is the best quarterback in the NFC. Welcome into the show. I'm your host, Shane Haff. You can follow me on Twitter at Shane Haff NFL, joined by two-thirds of the rest of the normal crew. We'll start on the top here. We've got Ryan Reese. Give him a follow on Twitter at Philly Sports PSA. Check out the jersey hanging up behind him on his Eagles shower curtain. Ryan, how are you doing?
I'm doing fantastic. It was an electric crowd, and to be in that stadium again for another NFC Championship win was absolutely magical. It was awesome.
Awesome. I can't imagine being at the game. That would be like the Dolphins game that I went to last year. The environment was insane. I can't imagine a postseason game.
Yeah,
maybe one of these days we'll make it happen.
It's like crank that up to like a billion. It really is. I mean, the first play Saquon runs off, it's just like deafening. The crowd. So
I can't imagine the angst like setting in as the Commanders go on an 18-play drive that takes 8 minutes and then it's totally undone and one Saquon Barkley 60-yard touchdown.
Right? Yeah, exactly.
Would have been amazing. I have something. I'll introduce David first. We've also got David. Give him a follow on Twitter at PHL Eagle News. David, how are you doing?
Doing great, man. They're heading to their Super Bowl for, is it the third time in 8 years? Is that right?
Yes.
7 seasons, 8 seasons? Which is it? One or the other?
Third time in 8.
Yeah, I mean, that's unbelievable, man. And they scored the most points in the history of the NFC Championship game. I mean, this is the stuff that you sit around your house and dream that could happen to your team one of these days, and it actually is this season. And they're going through doing it the right way. They controlled the clock. I mean, it's just been awesome, man. Seeing Saquon, like we were talking about before we came on, first play of the game, gets the crowd into it. I mean, it's just an incredible environment, incredible game, and I can't wait to break this one down.
Yeah, one of my favorite things to come out was the video of Jordan Mailata mic'd up on that first run.
Right.
But my favorite part, everybody's favorite part was him laughing and stuff. My favorite part was him apologizing to A.J. Brown on the sideline after he used A.J. Brown to pancake 2 Washington defenders. That was hilarious.
You gotta do what you got to do, right?
Yeah, I mean, you got to do what you got to do. Let's just say that's the only way A.J. Brown would pancake 2 guys at the same time is with a little push from Jordan Mailata. But it worked out well. So we are going to dive in. Unfortunately, Dibes is unable to make it. Popped up with a back injury on the injury report. So we've got a new center sliding in here. No, not really. But Dibes will be back with us next week when we preview. You guys hop in the comments, keep them coming. I will try to get comments on the screen. Dibes usually does that, and I tend to forget to look at it. So
I can take care of that.
Oh yeah, forget that you can do that as well. So Ryan, just yell at Ryan if he doesn't put your comment on the screen. But
so be nice to me,
or be nice to Ryan so he will put your comment on the screen. Either way works. But let's dive into it, guys. I did see a question about if we were splitting into 2 shows. We are going to, because I mean, we're not going to not do a show next Tuesday. So we're just recapping today. We'll do kind of more of a preview show. And I'm not sure what everybody else's pod schedule is going to look like this week, but I would imagine you're going to get lots of Super Bowl preview content over the next week and a half here. But for today, we're going to revel in the 55-23 beatdown of the Washington Commanders. Let's go offensive takeaways first. And David, I'll throw it to you. Give me one of your offensive takeaways.
That this was the best game plan and play calling by Kellen Moore and the Eagles offense of the entire season. It was inventive. It was creative. It kept people on their toes. Philadelphia racked up 459 yards with a very balanced turnover-free performance. They had 230 passing yards, 229 rushing yards. I mean, you can't get more symmetrical than that unless it's exactly even. They ran inventive jet sweeps. They scored 7 rushing touchdowns. Everyone was involved. All of the playmakers, more importantly, were involved. Jalen and Saquon both had a hat trick. It was just a tremendous offensive performance, in my opinion. I think it's one of the best games Jalen Hurts has had of the season as well, if not the best one. So it definitely put things back into perspective of who runs the NFC.
Yeah, for sure. There were some, obviously there were like some protection issues, and we'll get into the offensive line play, but there were some extenuating circumstances going on. And, shout out to Landon Dickerson sliding into center, a position he hasn't played since college. And I tweeted out before the game that, he was the center at Alabama his final 2 years, and he was drafted to be the Jason Kelce successor. And he was just so good at left guard, they had to replace Jason Kelce again. And so some rust showed there in terms of, playing some different techniques. And then he ends up leaving the game injured. And Cam Jurgens has to hop back in with his back issues. But considering the situation that they were in, you need the O-line to be better in a Super Bowl. And I think they will be, because there were some extenuating circumstances there. But great performance. I tweeted out today when I was watching the offense all 22 on one of the little pop passes to Devontae Smith. I was like, look, Kellen Moore is finally running the Kellen Moore offense. That was kind of fun. That was one of the hallmarks of it that I talked about this offseason with Johnny that we just haven't seen. But Ryan, I'll throw it to you next. Give me one of your offensive takeaways.
Yeah, I mean, just to kind of piggyback off what David said. Yeah, this is what we've been wanting all year, and for whatever reason, it took them all this time. But yeah, the game plan was perfect. The execution was perfect. Hurts. I every time that you hear the noise start to build, and especially nationally, of Hurts just isn't a top 10 guy. He's just not it. That blah 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 blah. He always seems to kind of, when it gets bubbling up to the surface, he always seems to have a game. And this was that game. And he could do pretty much whatever he wanted in the run game, in the pass game. I thought he was hitting Devontae, and some of those throws down to AJ were fantastic, and Goddard, of course. But yeah, I just really hats off to Jalen Hurts, who, man, here's more BS than any quarterback deserves, I think, in my opinion. And doesn't say a word, and just goes about his business. And he says exactly what he means. He doesn't say too much, but he doesn't say what everybody wants out of him, and that's okay, because all the man does is care about winning. And we absolutely put a shellacking on the Commanders. I mean, the most points ever scored in a championship game. You gotta love that. 55 points. I don't think anybody saw that coming. It was fantastic.
Yeah. Fun little stat for you. This is only the second time in NFL history there's been a 7 rushing touchdown performance in a playoff game. Would you like to guess what the other one was? You won't get it. Never mind. It was in 1940. It was a whole different era. But the Chicago Bears rushed for 7 touchdowns against the Washington Redskins and beat them 73-0. Can you imagine losing a playoff game 73-0?
That's pretty bad. Can you imagine also to score one more rushing touchdown than a whole team did in an entire season? Because that's what they just did. Dallas Cowboys, 6 rushing touchdowns all year.
Yeah.
Hilarious.
You mentioned every time that the national outcry against Hurts gets to be too much, he has one of these games. Maybe we should just fuel that national Jalen Hurts isn't any good. The guy's a bum, right? He can't win a Super Bowl. Maybe we just need to get that out there for all the national people to pick up on, so he does it again in 2 weeks. But a comment here from Brett Eclipse. His knee didn't look banged up. He didn't even wear the brace, and that was something I was concerned about. And they called some of the rollouts that he had a couple of really nice runs. One of them was called back on a holding, but he definitely looked like he was totally fine. And spinning forward to the Super Bowl, which we're not going to talk about too much tonight, but that's one of the really big things is you look at where guys are at injury wise. Like AJ Brown looked great in that game. Jalen Hurts looked great. You've got Landon Dickerson and Cam Jurgens a little banged up dealing with some issues, but they get 2 full weeks off. the Eagles conceivably are going to hit the Super Bowl with 21 of 22 starters fully healthy. Obviously, you're missing Nakobe Dean, and Oren Burks has played pretty well in his absence. And so, it's not the 22 out of 22 healthy starters we had 2 years ago in the Super Bowl, but it's pretty dang close. So, David, I'll throw it back to you. Anything else you want to talk about on the offense?
Yeah, a couple of the players, Hurts, for example, just protected the ball well. He avoided pressure. I think he was pressured 10 times. He was sacked twice. So he was very good at eluding that. He looked confident, decisive. He made a beautiful pass on that 4th down to A.J. Brown, that 31-yard pickup on that 4th down. And that was a huge play in the game at that point, too. Yeah. That was just beautiful. He called audibles, I think, 7 times, which is pretty amazing for somebody who can't read a defense. I mean, he blew everything out the water. And then Saquon, he started that off with a 60-yard touchdown run. And within 18 seconds, the defense was right back on the field. That was the only bad part of that. Then he added another first quarter touchdown on a 4-yard run. And I think he only carried 15 times. So we're talking about how fresh everybody's going to be. Well, so is he. He got 118 yards, 3 touchdowns off of 15 touches. So he's heading to his first Super Bowl on his birthday. He only needs 30 yards to break the single season rushing record for both regular and postseason.
Yep.
Which I think that's by
Terrell Davis.
Yeah. And then, like y'all were mentioning, AJ, he took a big step towards fulfilling that dream of getting another Lombardi trophy. His 6-catch, 96-yard, 1 touchdown performance was something that we hadn't seen in a very long time. He definitely showed off his inner excellence in that game. But and I'll leave Will Shipley to Ryan here, because that was probably the best part of his day, because if it wasn't for Will Shipley going in due to a Gainwell injury, I think we would have seen Mr. KG take one to the crib and Ryan have to get a tat on his back. But
no, wait a minute. Wait a minute. It's as if he was Super Bowl MVP.
Okay.
Tat on the back.
That's not what I edited the video clip to say.
Yeah. Listen, I wanted to bring out and just show, I do actually have some love for Mr. Kenny Gainwell. I do actually have his jersey. I've had it for a few years now. And listen, I say it in jest, but listen. He is a backup running back for a reason. He is a very good backup running back when he's in there. Again, we have somebody that can run the rock. I just would rather see more of Saquon, less of Kenny. But you're right. And Krabby deserves all the credit in the world. He actually sent a message out to Dibes to send it to me about how great Kenny G has been all time, especially in the playoffs. So, again, I appreciate it, but this one's for you guys. I said I would do something special. Obviously, Kenny G hasn't really gotten in an end zone since I made that bet that I would bring out something special. But this is what it is, my Kenny Gainwell jersey, just to show you guys that it does exist, and I do have one. I'm like one of probably 4 people that have it.
Is that what you're going to be wearing during the Super Bowl?
No, probably not. Probably not.
And I also want to mention Devontae Smith. Is there a player in the NFL who has better body awareness of where the sideline is? I don't think there's anyone in the league.
There was like a blade of grass.
It's unbelievable.
I didn't think he got the second foot down, but I saw later the freeze frames, but at the time I didn't think he got it down.
It's funny if you saw some salty Commanders fans, somebody edited that still picture and added some more shoe to make it look like him that was crying, the refs blew the game, that's why we lost, blah blah blah, we beat ourselves and the refs beat us too. Like, come on, get it. I'm sorry, but you got 55 points scored on you. That's not you beating yourselves, man. That's us putting belt to ass.
Yes. Somebody needs to mention Goddard too, because man, they utilized him well, and he performed big time in this game.
Running back Dallas Goedert, apparently.
Yeah, right. Like what the hell was that? I know technically the Devontae was a pass, but that might as well be a run. The fact of the matter is that Kellen Moore was just doing some crazy shit out there, and I was loving every second of it. It was about time that he showed.
Kellen Moore was doing what Kellen Moore was known for, like the jet motion. Like all of that stuff was stuff that he had done a lot in the past. I tweeted this out earlier today that Dallas Goedert has played in 92 games in his career before the NFC Championship game. And he had one career rushing attempt, which was a screen pass that was just a backwards pass before this game. And then they give him 2 of those fly motion handoffs. I loved that. I love getting the ball in his hands. Just a lot of creativity on the offense and a lot of the things that I was calling for in the motion with a purpose and getting Hurts on the move out of the pocket and having secondary options coming into his field of vision if his primary, like it seemed like all of those buttons were hit, and that's awesome. And also kind of frustrating that they didn't do it all year, but you can't complain too much at what is it now, 17-3 going to the Super Bowl. But it's just like, man, this offense could have been there the whole time. And so hopefully it gets built out into some more cool stuff with 2 weeks to go here for the Super Bowl. Offensive line wise, we talked about a little bit the change up guys up front. Lane Johnson, you just like never even mention Lane Johnson anymore because he's just going to lock down whatever side he's on. But great stuff from Stoutland getting those guys ready. And I mean, it was true next level, next man up type stuff. And shout out to Will Shipley. He's not a guy that I would imagine he thought he might play a little more than he has when he got drafted coming in. And I thought maybe he would as well, but makes a huge play on special teams, forcing a fumble, and then steps in at the end of the game and gets that long touchdown run while Washington's burning their timeouts down by 25 for some reason. And then he punches it into the end zone. And I love that Saquon Barkley is like the first dude out there to get to pull him up out of the end zone and celebrate with him. Loved seeing that. Guys, Saquon's probably giving him a hard time this week about getting run down from behind in the open field. So that's probably happening too. It's like the best case scenario. He got his first touchdown. It's in the playoffs, and the rest of the running back room gets to talk crap to him for getting run down from behind. So I'm sure they're enjoying that. But
I mean, 77 yards on 4 carries, getting in the end zone in a championship game. Again, you're right, Shane. I don't think they used him as much as he probably initially thought. But, again, I think what a moment for him. And that just shows you the team that the Eagles have is the fact that Saquon wanted to be the first dude out there and was celebrating with him and just absolutely, such a team mentality on the squad. And it's exactly why they're in the position that they're in. And, Nick Sirianni deserves a lot of credit. Everybody wants to kind of bash him for the goofy, way he is and how he's constantly, making an ass out of himself in the national media. But you can't understate what he means to those players. He relates to them on a way that I don't think has been seen in this town, and especially for the Eagles. And the players are all buying in. They have his back completely.
Maybe since Buddy Ryan, actually.
Yeah, you might be right. You might be right. But Buddy was a hard ass on them. I mean that's what they need.
But they die for that dude, though.
Right, you're absolutely right. But that's what they needed. This team and this day and age, Sirianni's the perfect mixture of getting these guys ready, what they need to do, and again, like you said, going out there and dying for him. You have to give this man more credit than he is getting right now. And the fact that he wasn't even considered a candidate for Coach of the Year, I think, is a little criminal.
He's won more games in the first 4 years, if you include playoffs, than any other coach in, 30 years or more. I mean, it's crazy how effective he's been. Yeah. And one last shout out on the offense, just to the gladiators of Cam Jurgens and Landon Dickerson. I mean, that was just an incredible performance. I think Landon played 39 snaps. I might be wrong, but I think PFF didn't charge him with any pressures in that game. I don't think he had a pressure in that game. And then Jurgens was not supposed to play. He was active just as a backup. And unfortunately, he did have to come in, but he played his 27 snaps, and he was a very emotional at the end of the game. But from all signs going to the last couple days, he is good to go now. So whatever spasm or whatever was bothering him, Luvu didn't irritate it worse by landing on top of him.
Literally jumping on his back.
Yeah,
but we'll get into Luvu, I'm sure.
Yeah.
They ddid chart Landon Dickerson with 0 pressures allowed, which is asinine because Landon Dickerson was awful at center. But that they gave him a 38 pass blocking grade and said he allowed 0 pressures, and I'm not sure how that computes,
it was a gritty performance by the two of those guys, and again goes to show you the mentality of this team.
And Tyler Steen, I forgot to mention him.
Yeah, he definitely had kind of a throw in there kind of moment, and he stepped up and did his job. So.
Yeah, there was a question on here that I was wanting to get to. Brett Eclipse asked, we've seen Tyler Steen filling in at both guard spots at this point. What's the trust level if he becomes a starter next year? I feel really good about that, but I was saying he should have been starting over Becton all offseason, and he never even really got the shot. But he's a better pass blocker than Becton. They will take a hit in run blocking, but I saw him used as a puller to kick some guys out at times in this game too. So that gives me hope that you can use him in that way a little bit as well. So I feel quite comfortable with Tyler Steen starting next year at guard if that's the way the cookie crumbles this offseason.
He actually looked really quick and twitchy in those little small spaces. Yeah, I agree with you. He looked really good watching back on the All-22.
He did have that one penalty there, John, but that was it. That was the only penalty. That's the only time that I saw that there was an incident where Steen was not doing.
Did he false start? Was that his?
Yeah, it was a fall. Yeah, he false started.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's flip it over to actually, before we go defense, let's talk special teams briefly. We just need a special teams segment on this podcast. So I don't know if you say special teams was good or bad in this game because you give up a fake punt that could have ended up being big. Jake Elliott misses another field goal, but then you also get, a forced fumble recovery on special teams as well. So I don't know how you weigh all that out. I need somebody to I need somebody to crunch the EPA on that for me or something. But I continue to be very concerned. Basically, the only way I'm letting Jake Elliott try a 45-plus yard field goal is if there's 3 seconds left in the game. Because I just have no confidence in that guy anymore. I don't know what is up with Jake Elliott.
On the bright side, he made all 7 of those point afters.
He sure did. He's got them down.
The field goal,
one of those
it was very windy. It was very windy out there. And on the bright side, there'll be no weather concerns kicking in a dome in New Orleans. But on the downside, he missed a field goal there earlier this year too. So I don't know. I don't know what to make of that. But Braden Mann, just shout out to him. He is just awesome, dude. And they should have had him pinned at the 2. I don't know what happened there in the end zone. Maybe Rodgers accidentally bumped into
the simple fact that, again, being there at the game, they did not show the appropriate replay. They showed the replay, but then they cut it off at the part where
Sydney played that beautifully though.
Right,
that was a great play by Brown.
We couldn't see the angle. I don't know at home how they showed it, but I would have really liked them to actually look into that if they could have.
I think was it Ringo? It was either Ringo or Rodgers. I don't remember.
I think it was Ringo, actually.
But,
I think you're right.
Ringo stepped on the goal line and jumped and touched the ball. So
but Sydney would have had it all by himself there.
Yeah,
did he touch it though?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he did.
Okay, all right. I mean, again, I just couldn't see it. They didn't really help us out there in the stadium.
So yeah, let's hope the good portion of the Eagles special team shows up in a Super Bowl game. Not the bad side, but let's flip it over to the defensive side now. Ryan, I'll throw it to you first. Give me your first defensive takeaway.
Yeah, I just how impressed I am of our young rookie cornerbacks. Obviously, that interception by Mitchell was something crazy, tipping the ball up, fighting with McLaurin, coming down with it. And then doing the little McLaurin dance right in his face. Absolutely love the fact that they pretty much shut down all wide receivers that come their way this year. I mean, they really have done such a great job, and it is such a nice feeling knowing that we have these guys. I mean, you mentioned Barkley, his birthday. He turns 28 on the Super Bowl. Cooper DeJean turns 22 Super Bowl Sunday, along with Andre Sam, who is technically still on our practice squad, and Vince Papali's birthday, February 9th. So I don't know, that screams like, maybe fate might be in our corner here, but yeah, anyway, getting back to my actual point, the two of them are absolutely fantastic. I thought they had a fantastic game. They've had a great postseason, and shining in big moments like that is something you can't undervalue. And I thought they played fantastic, both of them.
Yeah, Quinyon Mitchell was lined up against Terry McLaurin on 36 routes in this game, and they targeted McLaurin 4 times, and he gave up 1 reception for 7 yards, and it was on the 3rd play of the game. So, yeah, shout out to Quinyon Mitchell. He did awesome. Cooper DeJean as well, and really the entire secondary. They just do such a good job of communicating and passing off routes and things. And Washington was going into empty a lot in this game, which it is stressful for a defense that wants to play zone coverage. It's hard to play zone coverage against empty. But the Eagles were able to do it pretty well. So shout out to those guys and to Vic Fangio. These guys have embraced Vic Fangio, and it's a very young defense, and he's an old school coach, and they've embraced that in a way that, the Dolphins players ran him out of town last year after having a good defense because they didn't like that he held people accountable. And so, and you see where, they've been in Cancun for a month now, and the Eagles are going to a Super Bowl. So I'm glad to see that that's worked out. And I'm excited to see what he can scheme up against Mahomes. I know Eagles Eric from Twitter was in the chat earlier, and I saw that he had tweeted out that over 8 career matchups with Patrick Mahomes, Vic Fangio's 0-8 because he's had some bad teams, but across those 8 performances, he's held Mahomes to a significantly lower EPA than his season averages in those years. And so Mahomes has talked about how he doesn't like to face Fangio's defense. So I'm excited to watch that chess match. But
yeah, for sure.
All right, David, lay a defensive takeaway on me.
And to piggyback on what y'all said about Quinyon, he only allowed a 2.8 passer rating. And that's just minuscule, sickening. I can't even believe that. But I'll switch over to the edge rushers. Nolan Smith had another just great game. It's been a coming out party. I think he has the most sacks now in a single postseason in Eagles history with 4 sacks.
Wild.
Which is just mind-blowing for a lot of people who had no faith in him. Finished the game with 4 tackles, a sack, a TFL. He's involved into one of the top-tier defensive players in this entire postseason for any team, not just the Eagles. And again, I think he's only a half sack or so behind Reggie White for the most in postseason history, period, for the Eagles. So it's just insane how good he's done. And then on the other side, you have Jalix Hunt playing 42 snaps. A player that at the beginning of the season, if you had asked a roundtable of us at the beginning of the season how many snaps we thought this guy would play, maybe he's played that many in the postseason that we would have thought he would have played in the whole year. And it's just been crazy. Nobody saw that coming from him. He had 5 tackles, a QB hit, and he is just relentless, man. He can do so much in there. And also shout out to Jordan Davis. He had a very important sack early in the game. His speed was on display, running down ball carriers. He finished the contest with 2 tackles, a sack, a TFL, even a pass defense. He's been playing his role to perfection. I know a lot of people don't like the fact that he doesn't get a lot of pressures, but that isn't what he's really being asked to do. So he is doing really well. I know he doesn't play tons of snaps. A lot of people will point at that as well, but he's in there on the ones that matter, and everybody around him thrives when he's in the game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That wasn't one of our questions in our preseason thing that we did, right? Without Jalen.
I don't know. I was looking and I actually can't find the document. So that's concerning for in a couple weeks. That means I might have to go back and rewatch the whole show to write it all down. But
oh boy.
Oh well. Yeah, but I was gonna look and see if that was see what I set the line at if I did. But yeah, Jalix Hunt actually outsnapped Josh Sweat in this game, which was surprising to me. And if Brandon Graham is able to come back for the Super Bowl, I don't think you're going to get a lot from him, but you're going to get an emotional boost in 12 to 15 snaps, and it'd be fantastic. Yeah. But it would really help, I think, with some of that rotation, because it does feel like Sweat has started to wear down, as he tends to do late in years. I think everybody else on the defensive line has been fine with, playing 50 snaps a game, 60 snaps a game for Jalen Carter. The one guy I don't think has been fine with that is Josh Sweat, and he came into the league with major knee concerns, and I just don't think. I think he needs to be a rotational guy, and he hasn't been this season. I think we're seeing that, and you're starting to see Jalix Hunt outsnap him now. So, yeah, comment there from John about Jordan Davis playing his best football right now. Vaunted pass rusher Jordan Davis. He had 10 pass rushes in this game, and he got a sack and 3 pressures. And the only defensive player with a higher pass rush grade from PFF in Conference Championship weekend was Chris Jones, and it was really close. So,
wild.
Jordan Davis, Chris Jones, not really. But, yeah, that was nice to see. That I can't imagine being a super skinny quarterback like Jaden Daniels and immediately seeing a man the size of Jordan Davis bearing down on you and knowing that you can't outrun him. Yeah, that's kind of crazy as well. Ryan,
shout out to Jalen Carter for a beautiful right hook. I don't remember which offensive lineman he slapped to the ground with.
Their center Beatis. He actually might have killed him. We haven't heard from him since he got taken out of the game because he got slapped in the head by a freak of a man who I wouldn't want that to be me. I'd have to wear like 8 helmets. But yeah, he was. Whoo! That was brutal.
On the post game, Shane, didn't you say the defensive line pressured Daniels like 13 to 19 times? He didn't even get a pass off or something like that. I can't remember what your stat was. It was 13 to 19 something.
It was, yeah, they pressured him 19 times, and he was 5 of 13 for 43 yards and took 3 sacks.
3 sacks.
So they pressured him 19 times. They sacked him 3 times. He scrambled 3 times, and then he was 5 of 13 passing when under pressure.
Yeah, he was in hell. He definitely a different type of game than he was expecting.
Yeah, and you could tell from early in the game that everything was going to be hard, tough sledding against the defense. Like, there was nothing free. Guys were immediately tackling ball carriers, and anytime it takes you 18 plays to go kick a field goal, that's not like an end of a game. We're just trying to grind the clock out situation. The defense is doing their job, and that's not going to be sustainable long-term. Now, Jaden Daniels is good, but he's Jaden Daniels. Patrick Mahomes comes to town, not our town, but Patrick Mahomes is the opponent in 2 weeks. And he's a little better at that than Jaden Daniels, obviously. So hopefully they can continue to do that as well. Ryan, anything else you want to shout out on the defense?
Well, again, I thought, somebody said it earlier in the chat, but again, I thought on a very underrated game. Oren Burks, again, coming into this situation. He had a sack, a forced fumble. I thought he had a great game. Obviously, Zach Bond was just flying around there everywhere. It's such a beauty to watch him play. And unfortunately, David, he didn't hit your sack total, but his impact was felt much, much, much greater than 5.5 sacks could have ever gotten us.
No doubt.
Or we ever could have seen coming.
Oren Burks' forced fumble was a beautiful punch. That was beautifully intentional.
Classic peanut all day, it was. It just hats off to this defense. I mean, again, just like the offense, I thought they played very much, in unison with each other. There were a few times where it just felt like this team was so in sync with each other and moving together as a unit. All hats off to Vic and to Nick, and to every single one of the positional coaches on that defense.
And shout out to Chauncey Gardner Johnson. Every year we've had him, we go to the Super Bowl. So I'm glad he signed to a multi-year deal now. But
let's hold on to him, baby. Let's go. Going back to New Orleans. Real quick, to the comment down below. Did any of you guys see the pancake block Barkley had in the second quarter?
Was that on an A gap pressure? I don't know the timestamps, but if that was the A gap pressure, then yeah, I saw that one.
Yeah.
He also threw a heck of a block on Frankie Louvu on one of the lead QB draw where he I call it follow the leader, where Saquon goes through the whole lead blocking for Jalen Hurts, but he threw a heck of a block on Frankie Louvu on one of those too.
Good. Couldn't have happened to a worse human being.
So what was y'all's take at the goal line when you were watching that real time? What was your take?
Oh my God. It was some of the funniest moments I think I've ever been in the stands, because we were all like, of course we're all like, yeah, get him out of here. What a bomb. Blah, 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 blah. He does it again. We're like, throw him out of the game. And, even Commanders fans were like, oh my God, just let him score, for crying out loud. And then when they hit us all with the referee can award points due to, we're like, wait, what? Like, everybody just looks at each other like, seriously? Like, are we going to see this? Like, where the ref was just like, nah, dude, touchdown. Enough of this BS. It was definitely a funny moment, a confused moment. But yeah, we even the Commanders fans were a little sick of it and were wanting the game to continue, because that literally took like 20 minutes. It was awful.
They wanted to hurry up and get back to the Hard Rock Cafe.
Yeah, right. Oh, speaking of that, so I was walking in, and that guy, little did I know that was who the guy was. But Tailgate Ted was walking in, and man, walking into that stadium, the Commanders fans were real chesty. They were talking quite a bit. They were all Jaden Daniels up, and oh man, he is going to do some things to your defense that has never been done before. And he was one of them. He was talking a lot of smack. I literally was like, 5 feet away from him, just listening to this dude, for like a half a mile, just spout off in the mouth. And then you see that video of him leaving, and the guy getting right in his face, going, like, hey, don't forget to stop by the Hard Rock again, buddy. Good job.
Yeah,
it was funny.
It's fun. It's really funny that the whole world found out officials can award points.
Yeah,
in the NFC Championship game. It'll be substantially less funny when the Eagles are winning at the end of the Super Bowl and the clock hits zeros and the officials blow their whistle as the confetti is falling, and they're like, wait, the officials are allowed to award points, and the NFL has deemed it a palpably unfair act that the Eagles hold a lead at the end of this game, and so we're awarding 12 points to the Chiefs and going to overtime. Clear the field, get the confetti off.
Yeah. And that is exactly when you see the entire tri-state area Eagle fans get in their cars, travel down to New Orleans, and destroy the city.
Oh yeah. For real though, like the first time he jumps over, I think he's trying to time a snap count.
Sure.
The second time he clearly swings his arm at Jalen's head. And then I think it was one of the defensive tackles that jumped the third time. That one I didn't care at all. Like he jumps into the neutral zone and gets back. He wasn't he's trying to time, which is honestly, if you're a defense, like if I'm a DC facing that's what I'm teaching. Like at the point it's 1st and goal at the 1, the only chance that you're not giving up a touchdown is to generate a negative play, a fumble, something, which is probably going to happen by jumping the snap count.
Right.
So honestly, if I'm a DC, I'm coaching my guy not to headhunt, but I'm coaching my guys to try to time that snap count and submarine at the ball or something like that.
Yeah.
And when at the point the official says, "All right, if you do it again, we're giving him points," it'd be like, go ahead, they're going to get them anyways. I mean,
Right.
I don't.
Yeah.
I want to know who that touchdown gets credited to if they do that.
Yeah, right. That's a great point. And Mike is correct here. It's never technically been used in the NFL, but it has in college one time.
And that clip was crazy. That guy came off the bench.
Yeah,
he came off the bench to tackle the guy.
Yeah, dude came off the bench in a Rice and Alabama game. The old rivalry that was.
And hurt the guy too. The guy couldn't play the rest of the day. Yeah, it was pretty sad. I was watching. I think Kyle Brandt showed it on Good Morning Football.
Don't give the Commanders any ideas.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, listen. Maybe they could dream about that next year while they're all, on the yacht in Cancun. In a few days.
So do you think Luvu was dirty then?
Luvu's been dirty.
Yeah, he's. Listen, I get it, but. Like there's a limit to it. Yeah, if you're gonna be a dirty player, you got to be a little smart about it. He doesn't seem to be very smart about it. And yeah, listen, there were a few times where Luvu was the hatred of the stadium was all on him, and that was one of the moments for sure.
It takes a lot of intentionality. This isn't even the one at the end zone. But it takes a lot of intentionality to dive over something and get your head down low enough to spear people like this.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
You're definitely just trying to spear people with your helmet. And I mean, hey, it worked once. You knocked Jalen Hurts out of a game, spearing him in the head after he was already down, and it lets your team win the game. Why not try it again?
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, and I think Frankie Luvu is a really good player, but I really didn't care until I didn't notice the dirtiness, and I wasn't like watching film on him a ton, but the Week 16 game, and then what he did in the divisional round, and then what he did in this game, get that guy out of here.
Yeah, Marshawn, I don't think anybody here keeps up with the wrestling. I just know that it's a wrestling thing.
All right, well, let's go to our player of the games, and we'll get out of here. David, I'll throw it to you first. Give me your player of the game for this one.
I'm going to give the shout out to Nolan Smith. I just think he has exceeded all expectations that most people had for him. And I don't know where the edge rushing would be coming from if he wasn't on the field. Like you mentioned, Sweat's worn down. Bryce is non-existent.
At least he played.
BG is out hurt. I mean,
he had a 6 spin move and then fell and then got pancaked after he got halfway by the tackle late in the game. It was awesome. He like rushes in, hits a 6 spin move, and then immediately gets pancaked and gives the edge to Jaden Daniels. Fortunately, Nolan Smith is faster than Jaden Daniels and ran him down from behind and got a sack.
Yeah. I mean, he just been amazing. And whoever posted it earlier is right. He passed Reggie White for the second place all time, and he's 1.5 behind BG, who has 5.5 in postseason history. So he has been a revelation, man. I mean, without him, honestly, I don't know where the pass rush is coming off the edge. And more importantly, when Jaden, tried to do his scrambles, almost all of them were right at Nolan, and he contained that as well. I mean, he has just been, he's their best edge rusher. I mean, against the run as well. I mean, he has transformed that line. And without him, I think that this would probably have been a very different scenario this season, because I don't know I don't think anybody else on the roster can do what he does.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a good shout out for Nolan Smith there. Ryan, who is your player of the game pick?
Yeah, there's a lot of people that I could go through. Jalen Hurts obviously had himself a great game and deserves praise when it is for him, and so I always want to say that, especially because I really do hate how the national media just has this crap about it. But that's a very Dives answer. You're right. He'd probably say that the freaking hot dog vendor in section 206, somehow.
He would say, or I'll give Dibes his answer in a minute. You give yours first, and then I'll
But
do Dibes.
I want to give my player of the game, and again, I feel like this is more of a credit thing, to Jordan Davis. His sack was absolutely pivotal early in the game. I think he is an easy target to kind of just say, he hasn't really been that great, but he actually really has. Our run defense would not be the same without him. In fact, the combo of Carter with constantly getting pressure and him constantly plugging up the rushing lanes might be and probably is the best combo of interior defensive linemen in the league, in my opinion. And that a lot of credit needs to go to Jordan Davis for his part, especially in the run game and especially yesterday or Sunday. Somehow he was like, you know what? I feel like rushing the passer today. So the man can do it all. And I definitely think he needs to get a lot more love from not only from our fans, but from national media and local media, honestly.
Yeah. All right. And what about you, Dibes? Who are you giving your player of the game to? Oh, guys, you know what? I'm gonna do it. My player of the game has to go to Howie Roseman, because Howie Roseman put together a roster that has 8 player of the games. You got Zach Bond, and you got Jalen Carter and Nolan Smith and Quinyon Mitchell and Jalen Hurts. Like, they're all player of the game. So Howie Roseman is the player of the game. That's my player of the game. I don't care what any of you say. That would be Dibes' answer. Yep. Did I about hit that right?
No, I think we need to clip that and then send that directly to him.
Okay.
Yeah, that would be great.
We can do that. I can do that. All right. I feel like you guys just give me the layup every week because I can't not take Jalen Hurts, even though there's a lot of guys that I'd like to talk about too. But Jalen Hurts played. By EPA, it was the second best game of the year. The best game was the Bengals game, but there were a few turndowns that I would like to see him pull the trigger on, but that's always going to happen. I thought he played a really good game. He kept the ball out of harm's way. He didn't take negative plays. He took 2 sacks. One of them, he never had a chance. The other one, 1 sack in a game's no big deal. And so Jalen Hurts did what was asked of him. He got the ball out. He played in rhythm. I thought it was a really good performance by him. And it, bodes well for a Super Bowl matchup that we're headed to in 2 weeks in New Orleans against the Chiefs, a game that we're going to talk about in depth next week. So you guys be sure you keep it tuned in to the Eagles Pinpool Network. There's going to be a lot of shows coming out this week. My film review show with Johnny will be out tomorrow. Johnny and I are going to get BLG on for a preview show next week. We'll be back for a preview show. The Kelly Green Hour guys, there's going to be a lot of stuff coming your way over the next 2 weeks. So keep it tuned in here. Guys, before we get out of here, let me throw it around the horn for final thoughts and plugs. Ryan, you're up first. The Crabby Oldman did miss the beginning of the show. So he wants to know what's up with the Gainwell jersey. So given that, final thoughts and tell me.
I'll address that for Crabby. No, this is not a Wish version jersey. It was just slanted. It does say Gainwell. I do own a Gainwell jersey, unlike, and probably 3 other people that might have them. But Crabby, no, I just wanted to do this as, again, we've had fun all season about Gainwell. And ever since I made that bet about Gainwell, he hasn't scored a touchdown. And obviously Will Shipley has, scored and, he got concussed. And, I assume he'll be fine for the Super Bowl. But, again, this is just more of a hats off to Gainwell. But anyway, listen, fantastic season as always, but especially this year. Loved having 3 extra home games to go to and, have my wallet cry every time I paid that expense. But well worth it. A lot of great memories. And we'll keep this train rolling all year long as we do. Got a show tomorrow, 5:30, Football Smack Talk show. So stay tuned for that. And then otherwise, we will see you guys next week as we preview the Chiefs.
All right. Good stuff. Be sure you guys are following Ryan on Twitter at not at PHL Eagle News, at Philly Sports PSA. David, final thoughts, man. The floor is yours.
The $20 I contributed to Ryan's GoFundMe to get that jersey is probably the best money I spent this season. But I'm just glad you really got the jersey with all the money. I thought it would go to beer during the game, but I'm glad you got the jersey.
Don't be spreading rumors. Yeah. They're going to believe you.
He raised like $700 to buy that jersey.
Oh my God. They will literally believe you. Stop it.
Yeah, you're just going to get punched at one of the games and not know what the heck happened, but somebody's just going to fall off and punch you. But probably. Yeah, you can follow everything I do at PHL Eagle News. Follow it at phillysportsnetwork.com. We'll be back next Tuesday night breaking down the Super Bowl, which is what this whole season has been about. From day one, I think we all thought they'd get to the playoffs. Once we got to the playoffs, I think we all thought they had a legit shot to get to the Super Bowl, and here we are. And we all know what happens when we face the same quarterback in a Super Bowl for the second time. They take them down. So I can't wait to break that down next week.
Oh, is that it?
Oh,
yeah.
You really is just abrupt.
Oh, yeah. I thought David froze for a second. I was like,
me too.
It did freeze.
Yeah, we David's right. We are 1-0 in Super Bowl rematches. So, woo.
Yeah. Also, the Eagles Super Bowl win in 2017 prevented the Patriots from having a three-peat. The Eagles are once again the nation's only hope. So thank you guys for tuning in here. Be sure you are following these guys on social media. David is at PHL Eagle News on Twitter.
So is Ryan.
Ryan is on Venmo at Phillies. No, I'm just kidding. Ryan is on Twitter at Philly Sports PSA. You can check me out at Shane Half NFL. Dibes not with us tonight, but you can check him out at Mr. Crockpot. We will catch you guys next Tuesday night for a Super Bowl preview. Go Birds.
Go Birds.